Hello, everyone. So my name is Dr. Mahmoud Bukar Maina. I'm a research fellow at the University of Sussex in England, and I'm also a member of the Science Communication Hub Nigeria, as well as trained in Africa. And it's really exciting to have Dr. Abba Zubair with us today. And I'll tell you a little bit about Dr. Abba Zubair before I let him give his talk today. So Dr. Abba Zubair attended Dawakin Kudu Science College, Kano, followed by a medical degree from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria in Nigeria. He had his internship at Murtala Muhammad Specialist Hospital in Kano, and his passion for science took him to Sheffield in the United Kingdom, where he obtained a PhD in cancer immunobiology. He followed that up with a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Pennsylvania in the United States on a project involving the use of recombinant listeria vaccines for human papillomavirus-related malignancies. This vaccine is currently undergoing phase 3 clinical trials. Dr. Abba Zubair furthered his training with a clinical residency at the Hospital of the University of Pennsylvania in clinical pathology, a fellowship in transfusion medicine at the Harvard Medical Center in Boston in the United States, and MSc in clinical trials and principles of drug development at Harvard University and MIT. Dr. Zubair is currently the medical director of transfusion medicine and stem cell therapy at Mayo Clinic in Florida, and a professor of laboratory medicine and pathology as well. His division includes a blood bank that supports one of the largest liver transplant programs in the world, which is a state-of-the-art clinical apheresis unit and a US FDA-registered cGMP stem cell therapy laboratory. Dr. Zubair is a certified international inspector of bone marrow transplant centers and blood banks for the Foundation of the Accreditation of Cellular Therapy and American Association of Blood Banks. Dr. Zubair is also the Associate Dean of the Mayo Clinic School of Health Sciences. And Dr. Zubair's research seeks to identify and characterize normal and cancer stem cells. His research focuses on the application of stem cell therapy in regenerative medicine. He is the co-principal investigator and the sponsor of the true investigational new drug application that investigates the safety and feasibility of using mesenchymal stem cells to treat patients with intracerebral hemorrhage and lung rejection after transplant. In 2017, his work on the impact of gravity on stem cell biology was one of the only 3 in the United States selected by the Center for the Advancement of Science in Space and National Aeronautics and Space Administration to be conducted in the International Space Station. This work allows him to use the microgravity environment to assess the feasibility of growing stem cells that are of sufficient quality and quantity to be used in the treatment of patients with stroke. The results may also have downstream applications in broad tissue engineering and regenerative medicine. So overall, this is what I can say about Dr. Zubair, but obviously there are a lot of things that I could go on and on to say about him. And in fact, in 2017, when I saw the video about his research going to the space, I contacted him, and this is how we started, because he's so inspiring and he's such a good role model. Dr. Zubair, thank you for being with us today. The stage is yours.
All right, thank you very much. I put on my mask just to highlight the current situation we are in. Currently in our hospital, we have to wear a mask, except if we are in a private office like my office. But if I'm going out, I have to wear it. I'm sure a lot of you are well aware of the pandemic that we are in. And I felt maybe I would spend the first 3 to 5 minutes to kind of share with you our experience here in the United States, particularly in my own hospital. Obviously, this is a quite devastating condition that is caused by a type of coronavirus named COVID-19 or SARS-2. As some of you may know, SARS-1 happened a couple of years ago, and likely it wasn't as bad. But then, like all RNA viruses, over time they acquire mutation, and the thought is that this is an evolution of SARS that becomes SARS-2 or COVID-19. You all know it initiated in China. At least that's when it was first discovered as an epicenter, and it was actually identified and sequenced. So it's not really a ghost virus. We know it's DNA, nucleic acid making. It's an RNA virus. We know all the component of the virus. And obviously, it becomes a pandemic all over the world. And the United States is one of the epicenters, particularly in New York. Thank God, it's not all over the United States that is like New York. So like Florida, I think we are number 5 in terms of number of cases of COVID-19. Specifically in my hospital, which we are located in the northeastern part of Florida, which is Jacksonville, Florida, we only had a few cases. In my hospital, we had over 111 cases, and I'm so happy today. This is the first day that we haven't had a single new case. We have had a couple of patients in the intensive care unit that have all recovered. So far, only one patient remained. We had 3 deaths. 3 of those that died are all in their 80s, and they all had significant comorbidities. One of them has a terminal cancer in addition to the COVID-19. How do we manage our patients here? Most of the patients do not need much treatment other than observation. So it's a viral illness. Your immune system is the best fighter. So provided the patient are stable, you don't need to treat them. Now, patients that are critically ill, we have used experimental drugs like hydroxychloroquine that you all heard about, and azithromycin. There are other antivirals also that we are using, like remdesivir, which is actually the only antiviral that has been shown to be effective up to 60% of the patient. Again, most patients with COVID-19, 50-70% of them would have no symptom or would have very minimal symptoms. But the remaining about 20% would have severe illness, and about 5% to 10% will die. So again, I hear a lot of things, especially back home in Africa, where some people are denying that even the virus is a fake, or it doesn't exist, or people have it and they are fine. Yeah, it's true, they are fine, but the key is to avoid spreading it, especially to the elderly who are most susceptible to it and are likely to die. We also use convalescent plasma. This is a plasma from patients that are recovered from the disease. They develop antibodies, so therefore their antibodies can be effective in fighting the virus. So those who are negative, I had, for example, one of the governors in Nigeria, El-Rufai, had it and recovered, and he tested twice, and he's negative. He can be a blood donor, and the plasma from that blood donation can be used to treat patients. This is an old practice that has been used even during the Spanish pandemic in the 1918. And it works to some extent, but it's not that it would work every time, but it has been shown to at least lessen the severity of the disease. Finally, wanted to highlight that there is a lot of vaccines already developed. People are asking me, oh, we had this vaccine. There is, even here in our hospital, Mayo Clinic, we have a couple. Now, this vaccine has been shown in animal models or animal studies that it may work. Now the task is to test people, and testing of people takes time, and that's why the vaccine wouldn't be available and approved for general human use for at least 1 to 2 years. Normal time for developing a drug or vaccine is about 10 years. So just to give you a perspective. So that is overall the status of COVID-19 in the United States. We have nearly 900 cases all over the country, and the number of people that died is approaching 50,000. It's, I think, like 46, 47,000. So it's a real problem, and please do follow the rules, social distancing, washing your hand. This is, again, real. Do not assume this is some fake story or fake news. And nobody is an exempt, and no human being can say, is immune to it or cannot be infected. Now, majority or a significant number of people would get it, and they wouldn't even know they have it. So, but they can spread it. That's the big problem. All right, so that's enough about COVID-19. I know the topic for today is, what I call the magic of thinking big. I would start first to tell you, again, thanks, Mahmoud, for inviting me to give this talk. I always never turn down opportunity to inspire others, knowing that I also took a journey. I'm just like others, and I've been lucky to get to where I am. So let me introduce where I am now, then I can take you through the journey of how I end up being here. So currently, I work at Mayo Clinic. I'm sure as many of you know about Mayo Clinic or heard about it. It has 3 shields. One shield represents patient care, the other shield represents research, and the third one, education. So, and that is the feeler that support the Mayo Clinic mission. It was established over 150 years ago. This slide was about 3-4 years, so it's maybe around 155 years ago, by Charles Mayo, who was an immigrant from Manchester, England, and he came to Chicago, and he aimed to travel through to the west, and he ended up in Rochester, which is a rural town with nothing but a monastery, and some group of nuns kind of convinced him to stay, because at the time there was some kind of hurricane and devastated the people in the village, to help them. And that's how Mayo Clinic started. So this is Mayo Clinic at a glance. It has 3 main campuses. The one in Rochester, Minnesota is the one on the top. I don't know if you can see my arrow. It is the main Mayo and the largest. And then there is one in Florida, Jacksonville, where I am currently located, and another one in Arizona. And then there is the Mayo Health System as well, which is a group of hospitals that's scattered mostly in the Midwest. We have over 4,500 physicians and scientists. Our annual revenue is more than $12 billion. 2018 and 2019 has been really great. So our revenue is much more than 12 billion. This is a B. And then we touch more than 1.3 million patients visits. And then the visits to Mayo Clinic per year is up to nearly 500 million people visit Mayo through internet to learn various things about Mayo and health in general. So this is the Rochester campus. The Rochester campus has its own airport. The airport of the city actually is linked to Mayo Clinic. So we have visitors mainly abroad, in addition to within the United States, especially people from Middle East do visit. Some of the princes and oil sheikhs The King of Jordan has a special relation with Mayo Clinic. The father who died, Hassan, actually, he's a regular Mayo patient. A couple of US presidents also are patient of Mayo Clinic. So we have Jacksonville, this is where I am located, and my office is right around here, and then Arizona, and then the health system. So we have the cold Mayo, which is in the northern part of the US. We have the wet Mayo and hot wet Mayo, and then we have the dry hot Mayo. So that's it's kind of scattered and form a triangle. And the health system are smaller but scattered hospitals. Mayo is ranked #1 for many years now. This is an old slide, but it's also ranked #1 in 2019 and I think 2020. And you can see if you look at different specialties, we are #1 more than any hospitals, major hospitals in the United States. Cleveland Clinic, Johns Hopkins Hospital, Massachusetts General Hospital, University of California, San Francisco Medical Centers. These are the top hospitals in the United States, and Mayo Clinic is ranked #1. So I would, it's enough about Mayo Clinic, but I just wanted to show you my current destination. But I took a long journey, like what Mahmoud introduced me. I was born in Kano, and I went to Gwale Secondary School. It's a public, that's Gwale Primary School and Secondary School, and end up in Dawaki Science Secondary School. These are all public school. So a lot of you that call in, I couldn't see you. I'm just like you. You know, we study. Sometimes we go to the British Council Library or the American Information Center. I don't know if those libraries are still there, but now with internet, you don't have to. We study with candles, with very minimal light, and mosquitoes biting us. But you know, I always have the passion of knowledge and learning, and I can tell you what I learn is a lot of it is not taught by a teacher. It's something out of my curiosity. And one of my best books is Encyclopedia Britannica. Obviously, now with Wikipedia, you don't need that, but you know, just learning by yourself. The other thing, the key theme of my journey is, first, I really believe in myself. I think I can do whatever I set my mind to it. I know we grew up in a setting where you know, the white man is the person that is capable, and the black people are like servants. They just cannot do anything. But you know, we already at some extent think there's something wrong with us, that we cannot be whoever we want to be. And I think that's a wrong approach. And I can tell you, my journey proved to me that there is really nothing wrong with us. It is really the setting we find ourselves in, poor leadership, lack of resources, really contribute to the problem that we are in. I would be happy to tell you, and without bragging, in my unit, being the director of the unit, I have over 40 staff, and over 95% of them are whites, Caucasians, that include doctors, nurses, lab technicians. They all come to me for guidance or advice or telling them what to do. So I don't think there's anything wrong with us, because I'm one of you. I come from there, went to the same schools as some of you went to, the same teachers and all that. So truly, I think we should all believe in ourselves. So the other thing very important is we also need to think. And I'm not saying everything we think of needs to be big, but your mind determines what is big. So, somebody may take a piece of pen like this. I don't know if you can see, and say, "Oh, this is a big pen," while to somebody this is small. So it's all relative. But I am very passionate about doing big things because I believe we are all endowed with skills and talent to make a difference in life of others. So really, my drive is to do things that make somebody a better person, or make a difference in somebody's life. So I think right from the get-go, when I was in secondary school, I formed a group we called ourselves Nigerian Young Inventors, and our mission was to send rocket to space. I wish some of my friends at that time that joined me in that endeavor, and how much others that hear about this mission, how much they laugh and said, who are you to even think of going to space or sending anything to space? Look at Nigeria. We don't even make a good bicycle. Why would you think you would be able to send rocket to space? But I was never deterred, and the people that joined me never were deterred from that. And in our, you can say, primitive thinking, we form groups. Some looking at design of the rocket, some looking at mechanics, some looking at electronics, and we come up with a design. And I went to our local blacksmiths, who makes boxes like sweet cases of metal boxes, and asked him, "Can you make this rocket?" Basically, he took the corrugated sheet of metal and pulled it and make it in a round and put a cone on top, the same way that he was making a panel. When you want to pour like oil or liquid into a bottle, you use a panel. So basically, it's just a reverse of it. He made it bigger. It's almost about my size, and we took it on, and then we start thinking what we can put it in. So again, without dragging on, we couldn't send the rocket to space, but we were inspired, and we learned a lot about mechanics. We read it on our own, and so it kind of make us more interested into science and engineering and all that. My initial thought is to be an engineer, or because I like mathematics and physics are my best subjects. But obviously, my career advisor said, "Look, Abba, your dream of engineering and being astronaut and sending rockets, you can be an engineer, but you may forget about the astronaut aspect of it, because Nigeria may not be in your lifetime when they send this." So to cut the story short, I end up in medicine because that is what is cool to do at the time, but also my interest of being helping people, it aligns well. So at ABU Zaria was fantastic. We get exposed, and then went to medical school, Ahmadu Bello Medical School after SBS. And my first exposure to outside world was during my electives. Again, people in medical school, you go for electives. That is, you go to another hospital for a month to learn and experience another setting. Normally, people would think of going to either Kano or Ibadan, any of the major teaching hospitals. But me and my friends, we thought, well, we want to go to Cambridge, London, Holland, Switzerland, and all that. And I ended up going to the Switzerland. At the time, we don't have a penny. We apply for funding grants through different ways. And to cut the story short, actually, I had more than one sponsorship. So not only that, I have many to pay for ticket and feeding for the visit. I also even have extra. So even the Swiss embassy that give the visa, I applied for support, and not only they give me free visa, they asked me if they can buy ticket for me. I told them I already bought tickets. So, but the point is, again, you need to think big and you need to believe in yourself. Really everything else would come, if you are truly passionate. So the other important thing is when you think big, you obviously should start small. What I mean by starting small, it might be, let's say your goal is to go abroad for further education, be it PhD or residency or some medical mission or whatever you want to do. So that's a big, mission. You don't have ticket, you don't have money to pay for tuition, you don't have anything. Well, you need to break down what you need. So make a list of what is needed. Maybe you need to start with your CV, your curriculum vitae, improve it, make it, you shouldn't lie or put things that are wrong, but make it comprehensive. And also, this is a journey. Look for somebody who has been there. Ask them, how did they do it? Just like, I'm telling you how I did it. So that is starting small. And then you try. I remember looking for sponsorship for like other electives or coming to do my PhD. I can tell you, I tried 5, 10 places. I get used to getting rejection. But if you try hard enough, that would be one, at least one. And if you are lucky, you may even get 2 or 3. So don't get discouraged if you get a rejection letter or you couldn't go through. But it's just you need to be determined and be persevere. So the key of starting small is to break down into small pieces of the big picture that you have and take it step by step. I remember the day I got my ESTA code for my PhD, the money was in my pocket. And I saw a friend who was then the physician to the governor. And we started talking about going abroad to further our career. And he said, look, I said, why don't you apply to state government to get it? He said, no, that is impossible. It would not happen. Government, they don't do this and all that. I mean, he didn't know I applied to state government. I already got my money, it's right in my pocket. And he was so passionate, I shy away from telling him that, no. I started, he said, no, this wouldn't happen. So my point is, when you talk to people, there are people that are generally negative. And if I can tell you, it's a natural response that anybody who you approach with a big idea, they would always tell you the challenges, not because they don't like you. That's a natural reaction. People would tell you, you can't do this. I mean, you want to go to space. I mean, you don't even have a bicycle. How can you do that? They always tell you excuses. Now, you're not to dismiss that. You are to hear it, but do not be discouraged. And your goal is to find a way to solve those challenges and move forward. But never be deterred by negative thinking. And also do not broadcast your big thinking to everybody, because you will be inundated by negative comments that you will be discouraged. You only talk to people that you know they have information that you need from them to achieve your goal. You don't go and tell everybody everything just because you want to share this big idea that you're excited about. You go to the right people and always go direct to the source. I remember one time I wanted to get a sponsorship from Kano State Scholarship Board to go to my electives in Switzerland. because they already sponsored 2 others of my friends, but they were like 2 months ahead of me, and they had some connections through the Commissioner of Education at the time. So I went to the Kano State Scholarship Board. I went to see the director. He said, I cannot approve this. It's only the governor that would approve it. I said, okay, yeah, the governor would approve it. So I went out. I actually found a friend that works there at the scholarship board, dropped a short letter, put it in an envelope, and walked out. I don't even have a bicycle. I walked to the scholarship board. So to go to the government house, I was looking for, at that time we call it Ngachaba, those of you that speak Hausa, they are from Kano. These are motorcycle people that are, you can pay them, they take you. So I was waiting for this motorcycle ride. Then I saw a relative of mine who is a messenger, and he asked me, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the government house. I want to see the governor. He laughed, and he said, really? He said, well, let me give you a ride. So he gave me a ride. Because he's a messenger, he delivered letters to the government house. They let him in because they are used to seeing him. So he took me inside the governor's house, mentioned and said, okay, that's as far as I can take you. So I said, thank you. Went in to the entrance through the metal. They said, hey, who are you? Who do you come to see? So I said, it so happened I know a name of somebody who is, I think, the protocol officer, and I know the name through our ABUMSA Association, the ABU Medical Student Association. When we are looking for funding, one time we sent a letter, and the protocol officer was the one who responded. So I mentioned his name, and they called him up because they wouldn't let me in. They said that this young man, he said he's a medical student, he came to see you. For some reason, he said, okay, let him in. So I went up. As I was going to his office, he was going out to a meeting with the governor and some commissioners. And he said, oh, I greeted him. He said, well, what can I do for you? I said, I have this request for scholarship. So I gave him the letter, and he just took it and then went right into the meeting with the governor and the commissioners. Apparently at that meeting, he gave it to the governor, and the governor said, well, I approved 2 others. Okay, approved. And usually it goes through the Commissioner of Education, and who happened to be sitting right there at the meeting. So he gave it to him. And then by the next day, the approval went back to the scholarship. So I remember the scholarship director, he said, I don't know, maybe this Abba, the governor, is his brother or cousin or something like that. I'm telling you this kind of lengthy story just to tell you that you need to believe in yourself. You need to just go to the source, and don't go too much into, I know somebody who knows somebody who. Always aim towards the source, and because that would be really helpful. Now, you start small. Small is like writing a letter, taking a ride to the place you want, and you need to act fast. The key is a lot of people have great ideas, they want to do things, but they procrastinate. The key about acting fast is trying different thing that works. It doesn't work, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, you try another thing. So because it's not always the case that when you try the first time that it works, so you have to act quickly, do something and quickly know that it's not working, try a different method. So those are the key things that I contribute to my success, and the rest is history. Going through England, Sheffield, getting a PhD in cancer immunology, and then getting a green card by accident. At that time, you just apply online. You send a letter, and it's an envelope. You just write your name and the name of your dependent. I tried once, and I was lucky. I got I finished my PhD, I got my green card, so I never had a US visa. I was fascinated. The first time I landed in US, there is a line for visitors and then citizens. So I went through the visitor, and some guy, immigration officer, looked at me and said, "Where is your visa?" I said, "This is the paper I have for my green card." He said, "Oh, you need to go to the citizens line." So, and that's how I end up there, and I get a fellowship at the University of Pennsylvania. But again, I keep thinking big. I said, look, I got a PhD, but I'm a doctor, and I want to be a real doctor in the US. So I had to do all the exams, the qualifying exams. And then luckily, I get into a residency at the same institution that I did my fellowship. So I never went through the residency much. And I was just so happened that on that year, I was the first Black resident they have. This UPenn is one of the Ivy League school, and they always match their position. But in that year, God is always has His own plan. Somebody who matched to them and accepted the residency position didn't show up, and they already made schedules, so they are really looking for somebody quickly. And it so happened the chair of the department that I was interested in knows my boss, who is the principal investigator of my lab. And they happened to talk, and she told him that, hey, I have somebody, a foreign Nigerian doctor. He just passed his exam and he's looking for residency. So he said, oh, well, let him come and see me the next day. So, and the rest is history. From Penn, I also end up at the Harvard Medical System, at Brigham, Dana-Farber, and then did a master's. Again, if you set things in your mind, you are determined, just things will fall into place. It's almost like a magic. And if you have faith, you believe in God, really God is watching over you. But you have to think it and you have to act on it. It's not just you pray and no action. You have to combine those together. After my fellowship at Brigham Dana-Farber, I stayed on staff for a year, and then my first real job was at Mayo Clinic. So I've been at Mayo Clinic for over 17 years now. I started in 2003. And I rose to the rank full professor. I have my own division. So life is fantastic. I never lose sight of what I'm about and who I am. I know I'm a Kano man, no matter what I do. The training that we got, I still have, make sure I have my prayer at home and my damwake. So I'm still the same person. I never changed. I also the same person that is looking for a way to make a better life for others in my own little way. So there is a medical practice where you see a patient that also is making a difference. But I also want to be the pioneer, because what the practice is somebody else who discovered something. So somebody discovered aspirin or discovered penicillin, and we're using it, right? But the point is, you want to be that person who make that being the pioneer, and that's why I got interested in stem cell. And then we're doing a lot of things. We're looking at stem cell in space. We're looking at stem cell and aging, because stem cell is kind of the seed of life. It's what replenish aged or damaged cells. It also fundamentally, when something is not working, it goes in and fixing. So I focus on the fundamental thing of life, and then try to find ways to either grow this, to use it in regenerative medicine, or study aging. What's the difference between young and old? So simply, we took blood plasma from young person and from old person, a group of them, not one, a couple of hundreds of them, and isolate what we call extracellular vesicles, because those are the new things that is hard. I didn't look at just cytokine or growth factor in the plasma, because others have already looked at it. So the key, again, with research, you don't want to repeat what somebody else has done, or you don't want to do Me Too studies. You want to do something unique, new, and you want to be at the forefront. You want to be the pioneer, so that whatever you found, it would be unique. Because if you go where the crowd are, one is the chance of finding something new is small because there's so many eyes, so everybody is looking in that area. Two, even if you find something, you have to share it with somebody. Why? Because you say, hey, I got this gold. By the time you touch it, maybe there are 3 or 4 more hands on it. So it's always good to be unique and look at areas where not everybody is looking. Now, you need to be careful, because the reason why people are looking in one area is because they smell something good. So you don't want to go where there is really nothing and keep hitting your head on a brick wall trying to get through. You need to be smart about it. You can go where everybody is going, but have a different angle to it. Bring your own innovation, different look. I can assure you, you can find the goal that everybody is looking for. But don't just be a copycat. Copy and modify is fine, but don't just copy exactly and think you're going to be better than the other person. So I wanted to stop in this. Now I wanted to see whether there are questions, because I want to give ample of time to ask questions. This discussion to me is more interactive. I didn't prepare a big presentation or anything, but basically to tell you a bit of my life, how I end up where I am. And the journey is not, I don't see it, this is the end. I would still keep going. It may take me to Mars or another planet, but that's all fine. You determine where you want to go. You make, just like you say, I like mangoes, or I like banana, or I like red color or green color. This fundamental thing about humans, you are given the free will to make your choice. And this small choice that you make is what will shape your life, and it will take you far. And it's up to you to choose what you need to choose. And don't feel like you have to. There is no requirement. You don't have to go abroad. You don't have to be a medical doctor. You don't have to be a PhD. Where you are, you choose what your life is about, and then work hard to achieve that, goal. I can tell you, the journey is so much fun. Actually, it is the fun part of it. When you achieve what you want, you may find there is not much joy, but the struggle of getting there is actually the joy of it. So set your goals, be passionate about it. Again, think of yourself as, believe in yourself first. Think big, or think big is relative. Again, think what you think as a big idea. Then start small, step by step to get to where you are, and act quickly, because you're going to fail, and you don't have much time. And everything is about timing. If you miss a chance, it would take a long time to get that chance. So you need to act quickly and know whether this is working or it's not. But there are always multiple ways to achieve the same thing. So, Mahmoud, I'm going to stop here to see if there are questions, and I would be happy to answer them.
Fantastic presentation. Thank you so much. And it's really, really inspiring. So obviously, we've got about, I think, 24 minutes or so for questions. So because of that, I know that there are a lot of questions. So I'm going to just choose to the relevant ones because of the time limit that we have. So this question is actually from Pathology. He said, where do you get to draw the line between thinking big and pomposity?
Yeah. So pomposity is more about telling people. So the issue is thinking big. If a thought is in your head, you're not sharing it. You're not like going and say, "Hey, look at how big I am," or "See what I have." That is pomposity. So pomposity is revealed big thinking, And again, like I said, thinking big is kind of a relative term, but pomposity again is a function of speaking out and telling people, look at how big my head is, or something like that. But basically, that is being pompous. Is what you project to people. The key is like I was saying, is to be humble and understand who you are. I never took it on my head that my achievement is a reflection of my greatness. No, my achievement is more a reflection of what I did to others, how much difference I make, rather than what I did to myself. Whether I had a nice car, a big house. These are all pomposity, or saying, look at how big professor I am. Just so that, in the US, rarely anybody call himself professor. We don't call people like professor this and that. If you are a doctor, we call you doctor so and so. But again, the culture here, and I'm sure in UK is the same thing as well. It's not about being yourself. It's about your achievement. The other way to put it, how people dress up with the gold chain and stuff like that. And it does, you see it more in, African-American communities here, and even our culture. Down home in Nigeria, you see people, and it's common to all parts of the country. They want to be flamboyant, and people say, wow, look at this. But truly, if you want to show you are rich, then you are not. Because I think Dangote doesn't need to have a nice gown to know he's rich. So the point is, what I'm trying to say, pomposity is just a show up, a projection. But thinking big is something deep and inherent. So you can say curing cancer is thinking big. It's nothing to do with being pompous about it. It's just you are thinking about it. That's your goal.
Fantastic. Okay, so we've got this question. He said, keeping in mind the state of affairs, are you optimistic in our education and healthcare system? What advice could you offer to Nigerian healthcare providers and scientists alike in their various fields of profession? I know that you've touched on this a little bit during the presentation, but something.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are problems everywhere. Of course, some problems are much more dire than others. I'm kind of a person that I don't like excuses. I don't like to say, oh, look at this, is not working. Oh, we don't have electricity. Oh, I mean, like I told you, we would buy candle and go and read, we don't say, well, there is no electricity. The same thing, my advice to healthcare providers and scientists is to look at around them. I know there's all this problem, but truly ask, what can I do? There are things that you can do, and do not fall into that image of victim role. Yeah, this and that is all about problems. Truly, if you think hard, there are things you can do, and do not let others discourage you. Let me give you an example. You are a professor or a scientist at Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Yeah, you don't have big fancy machines to do things to study your patient, but you see patients, right? Let's say it's a disease, specific disease, call it migraine. Nothing wrong to say, well, I want to see those who have this migraine, how old they are, what, demographics. or I want to collect samples from those patients and freeze it down or store it, or I would look for a collaborator, somebody in the US. I mean, you have the resources there. You have patients, right? You have ill people. That is something, very resourceful. If I want to study malaria here, people laugh at me, how could I do it? Because we don't have malaria here, right? So I have to look for somebody where malaria is. So my point is, there are always opportunity, and never focus on the problems or the situation. You can do something and you can still achieve what you need to do. Now, I always say, and this is sound not so good, but that is reality. So if you have a situation that you're not happy with, there are two ways to deal with it. One is you do something about it. If you cannot do something about it, you need to change your attitude about it. So you have to, so either change your attitude or do something about it. So doing something might be you have to leave. You have to go somewhere, and just like what we did. I never went out of Nigeria with a goal to be, economic reason. I want to make money or something like that. I'm just passionate about knowledge and learning, and I also want to pursue my dream. So if you where you are and you have big dreams and you couldn't achieve them, look elsewhere. I mean, it's unfortunate. It's a brain drain. But I can tell you, I contribute to Nigeria in multiple ways that probably if I'm there, I wouldn't have been able to contribute as much as what I'm doing. So that's the point. You can still do what you need to do. You just need to set your mind, and it's just time it's like a magic. Things will happen.
Fantastic. Okay, so we've got another question from Omar. He said, what advice will you give on teaching and learning in Nigerian medical schools where medical doctors are not happy seeing medical? I think probably to avoid you getting into some political discussion, maybe the best the question should read, do you think scientists should teach medical practitioners instead of just focusing on doctors teaching doctors? Maybe that is another way to put it.
Scientists, there are certain subjects that scientists can teach. So like biochemistry, physiology, anatomy, the fundamentals of medicine is all taught by scientists. There are things that involve, you have to be a doctor to teach, medical skills and knowledge. So again, these days, it's not really the teaching, is the experience. If you are at the stage where you are in your clinical years as a medical student, you have to go and interact with the patient and do things. Now, in today's world, there is opportunities online. You can see even simulation and stuff like that. So I really think there shouldn't be any confusion about doctors and MD and a scientist, a PhD. I'm both, so I understand the both world, but they are complementary. They are not, a PhD cannot function as a doctor. So, and a medical doctor cannot be a basic scientist without doing, knowing all the in-depth knowledge of what basic scientists know.
Fantastic. So there's this question which is quite interesting. He said, if you could tell us, was there a point in the process of your struggle in Nigeria when you feel like giving up or disappointed?
Yeah, absolutely. Many times, I can tell you, I feel many times that the odds are so much against me and against my friends that we are in. But the key to way to persevere is to have a network of friends that are like-minded like you, who share ideas, and we kind of bounce up our bad luck and celebrate our good luck. So I remember, Abdul Mukhtar, he was my classmate from high school. We went to medical school together, and we did a lot of struggles together. And you don't need a lot of people, Haruna Adamu, a couple of people that are very close to me. They are like-minded. We share ideas, and that's how we keep going. But you will go through a lot of that. But the key again is you need to persevere, and you need not to be discouraged by negative results. Every time you get a negative result, you learn something. At least you learn one way that doesn't work. So it's never a wasted effort. The worst thing is doing nothing. You have to do something with your life towards what you want to achieve. It's just no excuse for doing nothing.
Okay, fantastic. So there's this guy, he said, do you hope to establish a stem cell research center in Nigeria, as it is still a virgin field, not only in Nigeria, but Africa?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't know, some of you, that was 2 years ago, a seminar organized by Nigerian Society of Hematologists and Blood Bankers. It was hosted in Kano for the first time. And I gave a keynote speech there at the time, and I called out the same thing that you did. We wanted to have a stem cell center, or at least maybe a bone marrow transplant center to get started at Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital. Obviously, there's always challenges, and at the time, His Royal Highness Sunusi, Lamido Sunusi was very supportive. He blessed the occasion, he invited us, and he promised to look for funding from some of his connections in the US and in China. And he tried, but as you know, everything is quite challenging. I cannot tell you how much is the impact of Boko Haram, all the insecurity does to the country, because it limits, even for us, our ability to help, because we want to bring our friends here. There are people, Americans, that are passionate to help Africans. They're looking for opportunities. But because of security situation, we can't bring them. I can tell you, Nigeria is one of the listed countries by Mayo Clinic to say, do not go. Meaning, so if I want to go to Nigeria now, Mayo will not sanction that, so I would have to go on my own. I wouldn't take trip days. I would not use my travel allowance to travel. And when I go to Nigeria, I'm not covered by the Mayo travel insurance. Those are things that, of course, I have to still go. It's my home country. It really limits our ability to help out. We haven't given up. We identified champions that are local, that are interested in this. We already had a business model, wrote a business plan. And I can tell you, as of last month, I was talking to a banker to see whether there are opportunities of funding. So the interest is there. I really would love to give back to Nigeria, particularly Kano, who funded my elementary, secondary school and university education for free. Imagine that. And, I'm heavily indebted by that, and I really want to find opportunities to help.
Fantastic. Okay, so this means we've got about 10 minutes before you disappear. So I haven't asked any question yet, so I guess it's only fair to ask my question. I was wondering, given the fact that you are a scientist as well as a medical practitioner, this is a big deal. How do you manage your time? Research, seeing patients, and you've got family as well.
Yeah, I can tell you the most painful part is family, and you really need to find a way to do it. And if my wife is listening, She would say, yeah, because, you know, I work almost 6 or 7 days a week. You know, so I have to sneak out or go to my office at home or come here at work. You have to do a little extra, but you need to balance it out, meaning you have to dedicate time, you know, take vacation time to spend time with your kids on a daily basis, you know, put down the cell phone and your iPad and dedicate a good hour or two and chat with your kids. It is very important. It's even more important as I get older. I begin to see what is really critical is not all this dream or what you pursue. Is really the primary thing is your family, because they are there for you in good time or bad time, and they also need you, especially your kids, for guidance, and they look up to you to inspire them to do what they need. And you have to also discipline them. It's not just your wife that would take care of the whole family. You need to play that role. So it's quite challenging. And I don't have a good formula, to tell you the truth. The only thing I just try to balance it out. But the more, what I found, the more good you are in your own research or practice, the more you get sucked in, and the more you become like a tree, and the branches started to grow and grow. And at some time, you need to learn to say no and say, well, even though this is exciting, you cannot just do everything. So I'm in that stage where I am beginning to say no to some new opportunities because I am really stretched out. So it's a very important question you raise, and I think the earlier you start thinking about the importance of family, the better. So it's very important to do that.
Okay, it seems like we've got nearly about 7 more minutes. Is that all right to continue?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's just a phone. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So so now I think I'll be asking like 2 questions at a time.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Sure.
I'm on a webinar, please.
So I think this question is just about, can your lab absorb scientists that want to be mentored by a wealth of knowledge? And I've seen a similar question, I think, down below, saying that, are you happy to be contacted by people really passionate about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I am very willing to help. I can advise. I can link up people. There are 2 things that I want to say that may not sound like favorable, but so for example, for a scientist, especially here, I'm sure you know we have grants and we have projects and all that. Mm-hmm. So the projects, you plan how many postdoc or technician you're going to hire, and you will need people with skill set that would aim towards that project. So it's not like you say, oh, I'm going to hire anybody who can do that. Not only hiring, the other thing is space. So space, I'm sure you probably know in the UK, is the same here, is very precious, meaning the size of your lab depends on the number of grants you have and the people you have. So it's not always that you have space that you can bring somebody and say, oh, this is a space for you to sit in and work. So those are the limiting factor, the project you have and also the space you have. But regardless, somebody who is capable, and depending on the circumstances, we will always, I will be always willing to help. Now, if you are a trainee, there is a different layer of things. You cannot just come to Mayo. I cannot say, oh, come over without your institution has affiliation with Mayo Clinic. But if you are, let's say, a scientist or a physician willing to come, there are ways that probably you can come as a visiting scholar, visiting professor, It's a little tricky if you need to be paid because, like I said, all fundings are already designed and you already hire the people that needs to work on it. So it's not like you have spare money to offer. The other thing also, I was in China, one of these, and some hospital, everybody said, oh, we want to come and all that. What they don't realize, on a daily basis, there's somebody wanting to come to Mayo. So Mayo is very competitive. People wants to come, some they want to even pay money to come. So it's not that easy to get in. Having said that, I am very willing to assist anybody who reach out to me. I can promise you I will respond and I will tell you the situation, whether it will work or not. If it wouldn't work with me, I would try my best to point you in the right direction, either talking to my colleague within Mayo Clinic or somebody outside if I know if there's something that I can help out with. So in the nutshell, reach out to me. I mean, my email is open. You can Google me, and I will surely respond, and I will try to help as much as I could.
Okay, so I think I'll probably take one last question, perhaps. So there's this question. It says, after PhD abroad, many researchers are caught between returning back to Nigeria to fulfill bone conditions or training further. Most of the institutions don't support further training. What do you advise them to do?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I can tell you, when I finished my PhD in Sheffield, my intent was to go back to Nigeria. Again, I feel so much indebted to Kano State that funded most of my education, and I wanted to go back. So I went back, actually. I went and met with then Commissioner of Health. I said, this is what I've done, and I'm here now. What can you do for me? At the time, I was almost finishing. So he said, he almost shouted, what, are you crazy? You want to come back to Nigeria? What are you going to do? And he listed all the problems and all that. He said all the skills, extra skills you learned would be wasted if you go back, if you come back to us. And I was shocked, actually, because he's a commissioner of health. And they supported me, and I thought they already have some plan for me what to do. And to cut the story short, as I was leaving, he stood and kind of tried to walk me to the door. He said, Doctor, this commissioner wouldn't last too long. If there's something you can do for me when I'm done, I can join your institution as well. It really shocked me. So just like you were saying, there are times that you feel hopeless, and those are the time. And then luckily things fall in place, and then I end up getting green card and all that. So your question is very valid, and I must say, even as undaunting as it is, the key is to think ahead. So if you're doing PhD, don't wait till when you are in your last year to start thinking of what to do. So you need to strategize way ahead and see what are your options. I always encourage people to go back to Nigeria, and I mean I'm still feeling guilty that I end up where I am, but at least I tried. So all of us should try to go back and help out as much as we could. But I would say when you are in a program, don't wait till the end of your program. You need to have plans, and be it in Nigeria when you go back, or where do you go next? Because things take time. And so for me, at least a year before my graduation, I am seriously thinking of what are the next steps.
Fantastic. So unfortunately, because of time and throughout the webinar, phone calls and beeps, Dr. Abba Zubair doesn't have the time to stay, longer. But I would just like to really, really say a big thank you to you despite your busy schedule, you know, giving this inspiring lecture. It's so inspiring. And for those of you that join much later on, this webinar is on YouTube, so obviously you can go and watch it. I think, you know, we wouldn't want to keep you for so long. So hopefully, you know, at some point in the future, you might maybe spare some time again to give us another lecture. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's really fantastic.
Fantastic. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.